morning, time travelers. This is Jennifer and welcome to my channel. Today we have an exciting adventure because we are going, drumroll, thrifting. We've got to get on the road. You can see from my clock, it is 8:30. I wanted to get on the road early and I have about a half-hour drive. I wanted to get to one of my first stops at 9 when it opens because we're going to the other county next, one of the other counties next to mine, which tends to be a bit busier. So anyway, and I should be looking at the camera, shouldn't I? Because I think I'm just looking at myself. Speaking of myself, and I don't want to be arrogant and be talking all about myself, but I wanted to show you my outfit today because I picked out these specifically to go thrifting. I thought it would be fun. I am wearing this cool shirt that I had gotten when I was at one of my favorite stores in this area. It is by an artist known as Bijou Carmen, who is from Los Angeles and specializes in vintage style art. So I'm very excited about that. The rest of my outfit, you can see without looking at my floor, it's from Forever 21. The earrings I thrifted many years ago. When I was a teenager, I was a young vintage girl, and I decided to give myself a vintage manicure. This is a half moon style manicure that Dapper Dahlia was who I used for my tutorial. I'm not so savvy with giving myself manicures, but hopefully it looks okay because when I watch I do watch a lot of thrifting channels, a lot of these ladies and gentlemen who are shopping at Goodwill, and the ladies especially, people are commenting on their nails. Somebody, one of the people who watches the one channel, threw some shade at one of the ladies who is one of the big thrifters because her nails weren't done, but she just had a baby. So come on, give the lady a break. I want to get on the road and we can talk more about thrifting and my adventures in thrifting throughout the years. As I started doing it when I was a little girl, which, as you know, I'm vintage, so that was many years ago. My mother taught me about that long before thrifting was a thing, and it was kind of a taboo subject. Let's go, and I will see you. We have about 4 stops I'm planning to make today. I'm going early as well because I need to get back here and get my daughter to a party and then go birthday shopping for her because her birthday's next week. I will see you at the next stop. I made it to my first stop. I'm at the Salvation Army here in Dover, New Jersey, and it was a bit of an adventure getting down here. There was some traffic that I ran into, not much, but I wanted to get here early because I know it's busy, and I got some parking right in front of the store, which I think is pretty hard to get on a Saturday. There was some traffic from like a garage sale because people were just pulling over like madmen. I had to brake quickly and my traction light came on. My heart is calming down now. Letting you know, since I live in New Jersey and we've got this special bag ban, I have to bring in my own bags. I don't know what your state is like, but what I'm gonna do, and this is my first time doing this, so I'm like a virgin going into a thrift store and actually recording myself. I'm just going to be recording my hands and not really going to be saying anything while I'm in there. I'll probably give you a little recap later. That's why I was talking about the manicures. You're going to be seeing a lot of my hands today. Hopefully I'm not going to be trolled for the manicure and it doesn't look as horrendous as I think it looks. So I will see you, oh, nice hand in the lens. I will see you in there. Why, of course. I'm the girl with the noisiest cart in the store. I hadn't been here to shop in probably about a dozen years, so I had to get reacclimated with the layout of the store. One of the first things I did notice at this location is there were a number of items out there that were Zara brand that were brand new with tags. A little bit about my thrifting background. When I was a little girl, probably about 5 years old, was when my mother first started helping and volunteering with the Presbyterian church that we belonged to. She and her friends used to help sort items before the rummage sale, and when she was there, she often used to buy things for my brother and myself too. Like I said earlier in this video, thrifting was a taboo subject in the area where I grew up. In fact, when my mother purchased items from the rummage sale or from a thrift store for us, we were basically told that we shouldn't be sharing where we had purchased those items. I remember some kids in my school mocking a thrift store that we had in town. It was called the Nearly New Shop, and in the 80s it had a lot of 70s fashions there, but at that time 70s fashions weren't cool, and I remember these kids would see something that somebody was wearing and they'd say, oh, if they didn't like it, you must have gotten that at the Nearly New Shop. By the way, not to get too off subject, I'm just rewinding here, and this Lands of Salzburg nightgown, I did regret not getting that, and I went back to the Salvation Army on another day, and unfortunately it was gone. Back to my childhood thrifting experiences though, as I was growing up, I used to volunteer with my mom too at the rummage sales, and it gave me appreciation because I always loved vintage stuff. Like, I was fascinated by other eras like the 1940s and 50s, especially growing up. But it gave me insights into some of that fashion and also the opportunity to buy some really cool vintage things like gloves and cashmere sweaters and other items at excellent prices. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm checking out the tags on these garments. I went first to the area where the vintage nightgowns were because I wanted to look at vintage pajamas, and I'll explain a little more why in just a bit. But I was looking at the tags to see if I could specifically find items that were made in the USA, and there's one. This thrifting trip has a number of purposes. One of them is just to go thrifting and check some cool things out. Another purpose of it is to show all of you on my channel what you can look for when you go to rescue vintage treasures yourselves. In addition to buying things for myself or for people in my family, if I spot things that they might like, there is a possibility that I will be venturing into the reselling arena myself. As I mentioned previously, I do already have a full-time job. This would actually be a side hustle if I decided to become a vintage reseller, and just something to pick up a little extra money because I do have things of my own that I need to sell. I'll show you some of those things in just a little bit, but of course, being a collector, as I mentioned before, that comes with consequences sometimes, and sometimes you accumulate stuff and you need to find a home for it. I'm honestly not a fan of doing garage sales, quite truthfully. I had done one when I had gotten divorced from my ex-husband many years ago, and it was just too stressful for me. I was just too shocked at the way that people were behaving in terms of just how they were coming too early, and they were really haggling, and so it was too much for me. When my kids were little, I've been an eBayer since 2001, and I would sell things online when I just had some things at home that I needed to sell. So this isn't something new to me, although it has been a while. Before I came up with the concept of this YouTube channel, I was doing some research because I wanted to write something about vintage fashion and vintage beauty products, and then it evolved into watching YouTube and getting into the vintage channels. But with that also came some, what would you say, flippers out there that I found these people who are selling products on eBay. Oh, by the way, that was a union tag that you just saw, and that's something else you should be looking out for when you're shopping for vintage nightgowns. Whether you're looking for vintage treasures or you're looking to know the value of things that you have in your own home, or you are looking to be a reseller, I would recommend checking out these flippers. I think that you could learn a lot from them, as I have. And one of them, Kat the Nurse Flipper, is the one who really recommended that people check into selling vintage nightgowns. And these, as you notice, I'll have made in the USA tags, because garments that we wear now are mostly made out of the USA. And so that's one way to tell if you're going to get something that's vintage. And this one I particularly loved because it is a long t-shirt, and it's got New York on there, which is the city where I was born, and the World Trade Center, which of course now after 9/11 especially is near and dear, even more so, to my heart. A lot of these vintage nightgowns did come home with me and were on sale. They were half price, including that New York t-shirt, which I had one very similar back in the 80s, so I know that they'll be going to a good home. I ventured to the hard goods section next, and this was very overwhelming, and I take a lot of inspiration from the Crazy Lamp Lady, who's another YouTuber that does a lot of vintage thrifting, and especially in Goodwill, and looking at the things that are here. Also Flying Pigs Thrift, and those two ladies are in Pennsylvania, and they do a lot of cool thrifting, and I've gotten to learn a lot from them and what they do. That purple vase, by the way, is one that I had taken home with me, and also these mugs, because they were hand signed, and that was something I did learn from those two ladies, and I thought that it would be something great to bring home, and they were vintage treasures. I did see something similar to the purple one on Mercari, and so I didn't want to miss that. I felt like I could be leaving a treasure behind, which was something I learned from the first episode of the Crazy Lamp Lady that I watched, because she had left something behind that inadvertently, because it had a chip in it, and it turned out to be an Italian vase that had sold at auction for like $13,000, another version of it, and she went back to find it and couldn't find it. Again, for vintage, quite simply, you want to look for things that are made in the USA and have a certain appearance to them. Also things that might be made in France or in Germany or Austria. Those are typically vintage items. Items that are hand painted, there are particular brands you might want to look for, like anchor hocking, vintage anchor hocking, which you will see an anchor on there underneath. You just over time get to know some things about the particular brands. I consider myself far from versed from that, but I know that those two ladies, they amaze me, especially because you watch them and they'll just say, oh, I think it's this. And also Thrifting Vegas, this lady named Tiffany, She's another amazing one, and they just know what everything is that they're looking for because they have such experience with reselling. And I loved this dish. I thought it was so beautiful. I took it with me. I loved the poppies on that. It was not marked on the bottom, but I just thought it was so beautiful. And this next piece coming up, I was just so fascinated with because, again, like a la crazy lamp lady, I thought, and for $1.99, I should just get it. It's this beautiful blown glass, and I didn't know what it was, but I actually used Google Lens, which is something you should also use, or take a picture and run it through eBay if you have a signal when you're in the store, because that was coming up as something of value, and I'm still not sure what it is, this particular one. If anybody watching has any clue, that would be great, because I think it's a really interesting and beautiful hand-blown bottle. And this sweet little picture, I couldn't help but feel badly for and couldn't bear leaving it on the shelf. I believe this was a little Limoges pitcher, and it had damage to it, but I just felt I just couldn't leave it there and wanted to take it with me. I've had that feeling wash over me before with vintage stuff, that I just don't want to leave something on the shelf that I think could use a good home. I was interested in looking at the pieces of red glass because my grandmother used to collect ruby glass. I don't have any of her pieces, but that one in particular and others were made in China, which would mean it is not newer. But I did look at some other things, including this plate, which is Noritake, which is made in Japan and is vintage. And I thought it was such a lovely and pretty plate. I loved the pattern on it, and $2.99. I thought it was very sweet and pretty with its style and this pattern. I couldn't identify anything about these butterfly plates though. I thought they were pretty, but I knew nothing about their age or anything, so I ended up leaving those there after deliberating over them. And there's more glass. As you could see, it's got a UPC code on the one, and on the other it says made in China, so those were left behind. Again, there was so much stuff and it was overwhelming. I was looking at dishes, not in the market for any of those. In fact, I have dishes, a couple of sets that I still need to dig out of my basement or my attic or my shed. I'm not really sure where they are, but I want to donate them. Also looking at different teacups because Nurse Flipper said those have value to them depending on what they are, and also hand-painted items. I did spot on these shelves, however, some Mary Kay mirrors, and interestingly, I have my own for sale, so it was a good exercise because I was able to see what they were priced at. And in this next clip, you'll be able to see how many I have. This is up in my attic, and I need to find a home for these. And so this was really good for me to spot them here. So I know there's a market for them. I ended up taking this little tin home. I thought that this was really cool, and this was from the 80s, made in Japan, and had the Hollywood vibe and logo to it, so this ended up coming home with me. And this piece of glass, I felt this was another one I should grab because it appeared to be hand blown, and it was a really pretty swirled glass. And I did see some of them on eBay, and they seem to be selling for quite a bit, so they may have some value. I also picked up this purse, which was made in France, and I was looking for vintage VHS. Now, VHS, as you know, isn't being made anymore, but it was right in this section, and there was nothing there. It was all DVDs, so I walked away with nothing from there. guys, so I did the first leg of my shop here and I am going to go to the next stop. I'm thinking about going to Habitat for Humanity right now because we're closer to them, and I think I'll be able to get through there quicker. It did take me a while to get through this Salvation Army store, a lot more than I expected because there was so much stuff to look at. And you can see here, I'll show you. Let's see if I can flip my camera. Nope, it's not working. Hold tight. You can see here, I've got my stuff. I have this laundry basket that has seen better days that's in my car, and I'm using that to store my things. And I've got all the fragile items underneath these nightgowns. Hey guys, I'm back. Change of plans. We are actually going to shop right now at the Bargain Barn and also the Book Barn, which is part, I don't know if you can see behind me, we are by St. Clair's Hospital. This is a store that I haven't thrifted at in probably 12 years at least. It's been a long time. It's got hours that are when I'm working. It's also in another county. It's on a cash basis only, which thank God. Salvation Army accepts credit cards because it was a little bit high today. But then again, these places are charities. So that's something that it makes me feel happy that I've been able to help. I did get some of the nightgowns on sale, which I was not expecting, and that was a cool thing. And who knows what kind of treasures I've gotten. So it did take me a while. It took me longer to shop there because I'm not familiar with the layout of that store. I also was checking into a lot of things and looking them up before I purchased them, just to make sure that I was getting something that maybe was of value and not leaving it behind. But with the Bargain Barn, it's on a cash basis too. So there's been a lot of factors. So I'm just, because I don't have a ton of cash on me, I don't usually carry a ton of cash. So I'm just going to have to pace myself and see what I can find. And one thing I did not find at the Salvation Army, and I wanted to look for, of course, was VHS. Maybe I will find some cool VHS here. And who knows what else I'll find. I will see you in there. I decided to come here earlier instead of going to the Habitat for Humanity restore because it was very trafficy in Dover, and this closes at 1, the Habitat for Humanity restore, and also Goodwill if I'm able to get there closed later. So we'll check this out. Walked in, outside of the Starbucks mug, I noticed the sale sign about costume jewelry. In my trailer, you see the footage with the jewelry box and me going through some jewelry. I had thrifted a lot of that myself when I was a young girl. I picked those up at the rummage sale and antique sales, and many pieces were also given to me by friends and family. While I visited the Bargain Barn, I only briefly looked at the jewelry. I really wasn't in the market for anything, but I was looking at the mugs, including the Starbucks mug. Access Gal Treasures is one of the resellers that I watch, and you can see that in her channel a video about the Starbucks mugs. Now you can see here some of the mugs and what they had sold for. The location mugs are really the ones that people seem to go for. In the region where I live and where I grew up, there's a lot of great antiquing, and that was something that drew my parents to the area. My mother has a lot of antiques in her home, and I started going antiquing with her as a young girl, and I think I have a good and decent eye for antiques. I wasn't really interested in much in this room except for one item that really I was drawn to because I loved the color of it and the style, and I ended up looking it up on Google Lens while I was in there, and it turns out to be lusterware from Germany. I just really loved the pink and the yellow on it. I just thought the color of it was just so exquisite and vintage looking, also with the black accents on the handles of this piece. You can see in the next frame what Google Lens pulled up when I looked this up, and it's in a different color here. I ended up also buying a small basket to put all of my treasures in because they were getting harder to handle as I was walking through the store and finding other cool things like this little teacup. I ended up finding a piece of red glass that I took home, and it reminded me totally of the ones my grandmother had with the clear glass handle. I thought this little glass owl picture was totally adorable. You can see it was only priced at $1, and in looking it up while I was in the store, it turned out to be from the 1970s. You can see what it's priced at on eBay here. Here you can see my basket of treasures is growing, and this was nearing the end of my shopping trip. I was in this back section that was really crowded when I first showed up there and was filled with Christmas treasures. I was looking specifically for Christmas ornaments because some of the thrifting channels really talk a bit about Christmas ornaments and how valuable some of them can be, and I ended up spotting a Hallmark Christmas ornament, which some of them are collectible and valuable, and I ended up taking this one with me. But I found some really cool treasures I will show you, and I'm just going to go back in and look at the books, see if there are some VHS, but they had a clothing sale 50% off, so I am going to go back and check because I do have some cash left, and see if I can find anything in terms of vintage nightgowns. So I have my finds. I've got a miniature English teacup, a larger one. I've got that little jar, if you can call it that little covered dish. I found a really cool little teapot from, that's from China, and it's shaped like an elephant for a couple of dollars. The little owl picture, the Starbucks mug, and then this little Hallmark ornament, and then that glass. The Hallmark ornament ended up being $5, but that's fine. Hey gang, I am back again. I decided not to get anything at the bookstore. It was just way too crowded, and I'm really not in the market for anything right now. I was looking for VHS. They didn't have anything like that, so I'm going to see maybe if the Habitat for Humanity Restore has it, or Goodwill. I didn't have any luck at Goodwill the last time that I was there. When I was at the Habitat for Humanity Restore, I saw all sorts of stuff, so I'll check them out. But I was at one of my very local thrift stores. The woman there, when I was asking her about donations, said, "We take anything, but please don't give us VHS." I ended up getting VHS from there. I think it's a shame that they're not accepting them in places, but I don't think that these places really realize what they're selling for online. And maybe they would, or maybe they would sell them themselves and get some kind of donations for it. I don't know. I think I'm going to, well, it's a toss-up. I have to look at the traffic and see where I'm at in terms of the Habitat for Humanity Restore and Goodwill, but I think I'm closer to Goodwill from here, so I will probably head there next. Hey gang, so Goodwill won the toss-up because it was a little bit closer, 2.4 miles from where I was, and so I'm gonna go in here first. It's very busy here today, and I keep hearing what I thought was somebody beeping, and I told this poor woman next to me, not that I said it to her face, but talking to myself, hey, calm down. But it ends up that something in here is kind of jingling a little bit, so it sounded like a horn beeping. I think it's some kind of, it might be the Starbucks mug that's kind of making a little jingle as I go around a corner. But I'm going to go into Goodwill. I don't anticipate that I'll find VHS or vintage nightgowns, because it seems like they pull their vintage stuff. They do auction their anything vintage that they get. I have gotten some nice glassware from here before, so maybe I will find that, and I will see you in there. And see how busy everything is today. Lots of traffic. We'll get there. I ended up going right for the nightgowns in the store and not going and looking at any other clothes while I was there. The only thing that I did end up getting off of this rack was a brand new with tags satin nightgown that I thought was really adorable. Not vintage, but it was nice nonetheless, and it was made in the Dominican Republic. Beautiful piece. Just to clarify, when I was young, not everything that my mother purchased for me was thrifted. However, she was a divorced parent when my brother and I were very young, and she ended up having to work 3 nursing jobs just to make ends meet. So she was very thrifty and taught both of us to be thrifty too when we were shopping. Maybe she's a bit of a Renaissance woman too, because when I was about 17, she suggested to me I might want to make extra cash by going to some of these rummage sales and getting things in bag sales, and then going to this one consignment store, and I did make some money that way. I didn't find any VHS that I wanted. They did have some, as you can see. The Auction Professor, and I've put a link to his channel, has a great video on what VHS tapes have some value to them, and you might want to look in your own stuff to see what you've got. Getting back to my mother and that early flipping that she suggested I do, as a weird coincidence with this video, since I was talking about manicures earlier, she was trying to sign me up at that time for a manicuring class, believe it or not, but it ended up getting canceled because it wasn't filled up, and so that would have probably helped me at least to have decent nails for this video. Let me refocus here and get back into what was going on during this thrifting trip. I ended up seeing this green vase, and it was really interesting to me. I ended up taking it with me. The Crazy Lamp Lady ended up having one on her channel shortly after my thrifting trip. So I did some more research into them, and you can see a little bit about similar vases that I found online and how old this could be. I ended up really interested in this sweet little seashell shaped dish with roses on it. I thought that this was really beautiful and vintage, and it was. Here's a view of the hard goods section. Not quite as overwhelming as the Salvation Army's was. I did find this mug, and Texas Gal Treasure suggested picking up mugs that had interesting shapes to them. That's another something that attracts people. This looked like it was hand painted. It was not vintage, but I liked it nonetheless. I'm really not a time traveler. Seriously, I'm not, but I just ended up filming this video before my trailer, and I ended up picking up that cool mug, which you see in the trailer. I thought that it was significant knowing that I was getting my YouTube channel, and you can see how I used it here. I just really love the message here. It's not a vintage mug, but I felt that it was really significant to me and the message that I was looking to reach to people with, and also about time in general and how precious it is. So I really love this mug, and I'm glad that it's now a part of my life and my history in this channel. Right next to my mug, though, I ended up finding these adorable little cups, and I looked them up while I was in the store, and you can see from the search that I did online, these are Napco-ware, and they are vintage, so very cool find. I like this little Ray Dunn piece. I thought it would be a nice little pet bowl. I thought it was adorable, not vintage, but cool. This wine cooler ended up coming home with me. The last time I was at Goodwill, I picked up a dish in this same pattern. I believe in angels and I collect them too. And I ended up taking these cute little angels home with me. You can see here an array of different things that I ended up grabbing here while I was at Goodwill, and I think I made out pretty well, and I'm happy with my purchases. Guys, so I am finished at Goodwill. My purchase actually wasn't too bad. Plus, I had earned Goodwill points, which I'd never earned before enough. And so I got $6 off my purchase. So I'm very excited about that. Ended up with some nice treasures, including Christmas ornaments and some other things. And I'm going to run quickly to Habitat for Humanity. I am looking for a few things. VHS. If I see any of the glass baby votive holders or whatever they are, those nice glass things. I am just looking for some random items, and so we'll see what they've got. I will see you over there. Hey guys, so I made it here. It is a nice hand in the way of the lens. It is super busy here too. A lot of people, so I don't know if they're donating or if they're shopping, but I'm gonna run in quickly. I need to still get back to get my girl to her party. And, oops, nice strap. But anyway, I'm gonna look. I'm just gonna also check for mugs. That's another thing. And I'll see what they've got for them. But I'm gonna be really specific about what I'm looking for here. All right, here we go. You can see how massive the Habitat for Humanity Restore is, and they have so much stuff from furniture to fixtures. I found this item the last time I was there. It's so cool and beautiful. Vintage from the 1930s most likely, and you can see how I'm using it in my house. I have a lot of vintage canisters that I have in my kitchen on the cabinet. If you're looking for a thrifting channel that's not necessarily about reselling, but a channel that perhaps specializes in using thrifted items within your home, I would recommend Elizabeth from Old Maple Home. She's got a great channel and she takes you occasionally on thrifting adventures. She also will sometimes revamp the items that she purchases at thrift stores and at different events, so I would recommend her channel too. On my last restore trip, I also got this hand mirror, which I thought was really cool. Not in the best of shape, but it turns out it's a brand called Ivortus, I-V-O-R-T-U-S, and that's probably from the 1920s, so very cool item. I did not see any VHS. I looked at the mugs, but didn't pick up any mugs while I was here. Though I kicked myself later when I was watching my footage because I did see a box full of mugs that I happened to pan over, but not grab because it was very crowded here. I was also confronted with a lot of Christmas items, which I wasn't expecting. And I got very excited over some ornaments and just wanted to grab them. There were some bags of ornaments that I took home with me. What I love about the Salvation Army, about the Restore, about Goodwill, actually about any consignment store, is that it takes things out of landfills and it puts them into the hands of people who really want them. And we've become a world that's about reusing things. I think that's a great thing. As I mentioned before, I think the Goodwill in my area may take vintage items and put them up for auction, which does give them a higher visibility, which that's always a good thing. I love this little Raggedy Ann picture, and this was something that came home with me on this trip. I thought it was darling. I like Goodwill's system too, and what they do with some of their things, in that they have things, if they don't sell them in the store, they also have an outlet in some areas where things go in the bins and you look for them like a treasure hunt and you pay for them by the pound. Even some things that they haven't been able to process, they put into the outlets. That's kind of a cool thing. I haven't tried that yet, but I would like to. And Jody Kenny, who is one of the YouTubers I follow, has some adventures with that. What else? Oh, I mentioned Glass Baby. I have not, it's actually called Glassy Baby. I did not find any Glassy Baby while I was here, but this one group that I belong to, that the Crazy Lamp Lady started on Facebook, discusses that. And Glassy Baby is something that seems to have high value. If you're able to grab it, or if you have it at home, you should look for it. Here I was in the Christmas section, and by the way, I did grab that hand-painted dish with the grapes on it that I was holding. I thought that was really nice. It was pretty packed here. You can see I was just trying to navigate through things with my camera, and there's that stoneware mug set that I missed when I was picking up the ornaments that was sitting on top of that bag of ornaments. I was really interested in that. They had some M&Ms in there that I really thought those were kind of neat, and I thought it might be worth grabbing. And this was something that helped the restore out because the bag was $10 with all of those goodies in there. Here's a view of what my cart looked like so far and some of the things that I had in there. You get a little view of the things that I picked up at that point on this trip. I found some cool vintage Hallmark ornaments, like a baby's first Christmas, and some other things that I thought were really interesting. You can see some of the items that they had there. There was just so much for the eye to take in, and well, filming my little search for stuff and trying to navigate through the crowds, it was a bit busy. But I think it's well worth it. They have some really cool stuff, from artwork, like I mentioned, to fixtures, to they even have a specialized area that has some more, what would you say, higher value stuff that they sell that's kind of finer antiques. It's really worth the trip to come here. They also have a very huge book section in this store, and the trip that I had made where I had picked up the hand mirror and the tin, I had bought a ton of vintage cookbooks. They were priced at like $1 each, 50 cents each. They were on sale that week. I found some really cool books that I will be using, and I plan to use in some upcoming videos, some nice recipes. In fact, I have a macaroni and cheese recipe from one of them that has become a favorite in this house. I would recommend, if you're looking for some nice books, to also, you can see some of the books here as I was shopping for other Christmas ornaments. These ornaments were back in that section. You can see some of the items. I found more bags of ornaments that I took with me. I was looking for some other stuff. I got a tree topper that you'll see as well. That was really beautiful, and it turned out to be made in Italy. I really loved the appearance of it. I thought, and here it is, that it was really nice. I got that for like $1, and it's a really beautiful and tall tree topper. I thought it was really a good find, so I said, you are getting into my cart now. Come with me. Got a new home tree topper. You can see a lot of cute mugs here. Now, it may be Texas Gal Treasures. I hope I'm not mixing them up, or it might be Cat the Nurse Flipper, but they both talk about mugs on their channel. So forgive me if I've mixed up the details as to who talked about what. I'm trying to keep them all straight. I watch a lot of them. I find that, and there's even more that I wasn't even able to mention in this video, you know, that I'll do my best to share a lot of them with you, but as I can, I watch them because they really have, I've learned a lot about different collectibles from them, and that market always changes. So something that's a value now may not be valuable at another time in terms of dollar value, but if it's something that you love, then it's always valuable. So if you see something, grab it. That's kind of my philosophy, because you may not be able to get it again, especially when it's something that is vintage. You need to seize the day, seize the opportunity. I kept digging and hunting for cool stuff. Remember, I was on a bit of a time deadline because I did want to get back to get my daughter, and so I wanted to check stuff out, but at the same time, I was a little bit limited as to what I could get. Now I'm seeing that kind of cute little swan, and maybe I should have grabbed that, but again, you can't grab everything. And even experienced thrifters like Texas Gal Treasures says that she often goes back and looks at her footage and ends up seeing something that she wished she had grabbed. Did like that little pine cone ornament though, and that was one that came home with me. You can see I'm checking out all different things. It's a matter of digging because they had just a mix of different things, and again, it was a little bit crowded, so it was sometimes hard to navigate. You know, people were bumping into you a little bit as you're looking at things, but there were some cool things, some new. That item was a new one. You can see I've got some of the items and I'm putting them into my cart because I felt, especially with the crowd there, if there was something that I saw, that I better get it into my cart. So it's kind of claimed because, hey, at that point, it's a free-for-all. And especially I had spotted this little guy, and I know because I have something similar and because of the popularity of the elf on a shelf, that this little dude needed to come home with me. He was only $1, and I ended up looking him up online with Google Lens. You can see how much he was valued and sold for on Etsy. I would say that it was both literally and figuratively like an early Christmas here in the Habitat for Humanity Restore. Looking at all of these ornaments, I found this bag which had a lot of vintage, older, wooden Christmas ornaments, toy-like ornaments. I thought they were adorable, and so it was like Christmas in my cart, and they came home with me. Hey time travelers, it's me again. So I'm gonna seem like I teleported because I actually am no longer at the Restore, but I'm at Bed Bath & Beyond. As it turns out, it was a bit of a line getting out of there. It was super busy. I don't know if it was because of all the Christmas stuff or if it's because of the weekend, but it was a lot busier than I expected. I think I did better by going to the Salvation Army first because of the parking situation there, and then doing my route as I did. As it turned out, my daughter decided instead, because she's old enough to do this, to get a ride with her friend, and she's just going to the party up the street for her other friend. I'm gonna head into Bed Bath & Beyond and hopefully use a bathroom because I haven't in this whole time. Not that I've been drinking much, but I got my water in here. I am going to go do some shopping for her birthday, and I guess you would say get back to the future or the present time, so to speak. And I'm done with my vintage shop. I did very well, by the way, at the Restore in terms of the Christmas things. I got some nice glass ornaments that are vintage, stuff like this. So have a great day. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Look forward to more time traveling adventures. Bye.